it's been a really difficult time for us. We've lost at this point 7 people from our program, 6 individuals, 1 staff person, and yeah, it's just been tough. I mean, it's gotten to a point where you know, when I get an email from work or a text from a supervisor, you know, I'm immediately concerned. I immediately get anxious when my phone buzzes. You know, and it's you know, you don't get to go through that goodbye process. You know, those rituals that are so important in the grieving process. You know, we haven't gotten to have a memorial service. We haven't gotten to go to a funeral or a wake for any of these people, and you know, it's been really difficult just to process it. I mean, when we left program that last day, it was, I think most of us kind of thought, all right, this sucks, but we'll see everybody in a couple weeks, and everyone stay safe, and we'll see you soon. And nobody anticipated, you know, a month or so later, being 7 people down and not having any idea when we're going to be going back to program. And you know, it's made the grieving process really difficult. You know, and you find yourself, you know, we went a week without anyone passing away, and then you kind of feel like, all right, maybe we're moving past things. And then the following week, you know, I find out we lose 2 people. So it's just been difficult. It's been really difficult to process everything. It's difficult to, you know, process all the feelings involved, you know, and you know, I talked a bit before about leaders and policy and what have you, but you know, and I'll put it out there, but that, you know, I for whatever reason in this grieving process, I find myself really struggling to just remember the last interaction I had with each of them, that last conversation, because none of them were sick when we left. So there was no, you know, there was none of that preparing to lose somebody. And I just remember one day, and it just stuck in my head, that like trying to remember the last conversation that I had with one of the individuals that we lost. And it was the same day our president was bragging about his ratings and how high his ratings were, and how it compared to like the Super Bowl and Bachelor season finale. And you know, I just got viscerally angry at him and our federal leadership. And you know, it's part of the reason I'm doing this right now. It's part of the reason I'm advocating wherever I can. It's just getting the story out, because it's not out there, and to have a leader that you know, I'm not the only one. You know, I'm not the only one that's grieving, and to have a leadership that's talking about things like that while people are grieving such incredible losses is just disgusting. It's appalling. And so like part of the grieving process for me has been anger, you know, all those, you know, the 5 steps in the grieving process. But you know, I've been in touch with coworkers, and we, you know, we try to help each other virtually. But it's definitely been a really incredibly difficult time, where you just kind of, every time you hear that someone passes, you're just kind of hoping that that's the last one, you know, that's it, you know. I keep thinking, when does anybody ever lose 7 people in their workplace in the time span of a month? I was not emotionally prepared for that to happen. I don't think anybody was. So I mean, it's what's frightening about all of it. I shouldn't say frightening, but what's concerning. And again, I hope that leadership, and when I say leadership, I'm talking federal, state, local, management in our field. Um, this is something we're all going to be processing well into 2021, if not further. When we talk about opening the programs and getting back to day hab, that's all fine and good, but I know people are going to break down when they walk into classrooms when we first get back to day. I just hope that all the leadership out there realizes, and especially DSPs who just had to, they're working. So they really, don't have a chance to grieve, because it's like, got to get in there, got to do my work. When we get back to quote unquote normal, it's going to hit a lot of people. And I just hope the supports are in there. We talk a lot in our field about supports for people with disabilities, and that's what we do. And that is obviously very, very important. But the supports for our DSPs is just sorely lacking. And we need to, once we come out of this and we move forward and we try to get to some level of normalcy, the supports have to be there for our DSPs. It would be completely unfair to come out of this, and at least where I work, and I'm sure there are other programs dealing with the same thing, to come back to work and think, all right, we're open, let's get back to normal. Those supports have to be there. But maybe I'm rambling, but it's just been a tough time.